Have you ever been so nervous to speak English in front of a crowd that you felt like running away? Well, you're not alone. Join Nancy Drew, the famous detective, as she shares the secrets she learned from a professor that helped her conquer her fear of public speaking in English. Ready to unlock these powerful tips? Let's dive into her story. Hi, I'm Nancy Drew. You might know me as someone who loves solving mysteries, but today I want to share something different, something that made me nervous, even more than chasing clues or facing tricky situations. I want to tell you about my journey of learning how to speak English confidently in public. It wasn't easy at first. I was scared, unsure, and even embarrassed when I made mistakes. But through practice, support, and some amazing advice, I found a way to overcome my fear. Let me take you back to the beginning of my story, where it all started. Imagine a younger me, sitting in a classroom, listening to my teacher explain something in English. I could read and write just fine, but every time I had to stand up and speak, my heart would race, my palms would sweat, and my voice would shake. Speaking English in front of others felt impossible. I avoided it as much as I could. If someone asked me a question in English, I would mumble or try to change the topic. I didn't want people to laugh at me or correct my mistakes. Deep down, though, I knew I had to find a way to improve. Speaking English was important, not just for school, but for solving mysteries and talking to people from different places. Then one day, something happened that changed everything. I met someone who gave me the tools and confidence to face my fear. That's the story I want to share with you today. It's a story about learning, trying, and believing in yourself. So, stay with me as I take you through this incredible journey that taught me how to speak English with courage, even in front of a crowd. Are you ready to hear how it all unfolded? Let's dive in. The problem. I've always loved solving mysteries and exploring new things. There's nothing more exciting than figuring out clues, helping people, and finding answers to big questions. Whether it was a missing object, a strange noise in the attic, or a secret hidden in the garden, I was always ready to jump in and solve the puzzle. But even though I was brave when it came to solving mysteries, there was one thing that scared me a lot: speaking English in front of a crowd. It felt like the hardest thing in the world. Every time someone asked me to say something in front of others, I would get really nervous. When I tried to speak, my voice would start shaking, like I was standing in the middle of a big storm. My words, which were clear in my head, would suddenly disappear, leaving me silent and embarrassed. I felt like everyone was staring at me, waiting for me to say something, but the more I tried, the harder it became. So, what did I do? I avoided it. If there was a school presentation, I would make an excuse. If I had to introduce myself at a gathering, I'd try to hide behind someone else. It felt safe to avoid speaking, but deep down, I knew this fear wasn't going to help me in the long run, that I realized that if I wanted to solve mysteries, meet people, and share my adventures, I had to overcome my fear of speaking English in public. I needed to find a way to make my voice strong and my words clear. This was one challenge I couldn't avoid. That's when I decided to face my fear and learn how to speak English with confidence. My journey wasn't easy, but every small step I took made a big difference. Would you like to know how I did it? Let me tell you. Meeting the professor. It all started on a bright, sunny day when I was working on one of my favorite mysteries. As always, I was curious, looking for clues, and following every lead I could find. This particular case brought me to the doorstep of Professor Ethan Hill, a well-known expert in languages and communication. People in the town admired him for his intelligence and his ability to explain even the hardest things in the simplest way. When I knocked on his door, I didn't know that meeting him would change my life in such an important way. Professor Hill welcomed me with a warm smile and invited me into his cozy study. The room was full of books stacked neatly on shelves, with titles about language, public speaking, and even solving mysteries. After a quick chat, I explained the clues I had gathered for my case, and he helped me figure out the missing piece. With his help, I solved the mystery, and it felt amazing. But just as I was about to leave, I hesitated for a moment. There was something else I wanted to say. Professor Hill, I started nervously. I need to tell you something. I'm really scared of speaking English in front of people. Every time I try, my words come out wrong, and I feel embarrassed. It's holding me back. The professor listened carefully, nodding with understanding. Then he gave me a kind smile and said something that I would never forget. Nancy, public speaking is just like solving a mystery. It might seem difficult at first, but once you know the right techniques, it becomes much easier. Let me teach you. I couldn't believe it. A brilliant professor was offering to help me overcome my fear. I felt both nervous and excited as I sat down, ready to learn. Little did I know, this was the beginning of an incredible journey that would make me a confident English speaker. That day marked a turning point in my life, and I couldn't wait to see what techniques Professor Hill had in store for me. The techniques Professor Hill shared. 1. Prepare like a detective. Professor Hill had a smile on his face when he gave me this advice. Think of public speaking like solving a mystery, Nancy. Just like you gather clues to solve a case, you need to gather your points before you start speaking. Once you have all your clues, you must organize them so the story makes sense. This way, the audience can follow what you're saying without getting confused. This idea immediately made sense to me because solving mysteries was something I loved and understood well. Just as I would list all the suspects, pieces of evidence, and questions to solve a case, I began listing the main points of my speech. Instead of trying to remember everything word for word, I focused on the key ideas I wanted to share. For example, when I planned my speech about solving mysteries, I wrote down these points. 1. What made me curious about mysteries? 2. A memorable case I solved. 3. How others can become good detectives. Each point was like a clue that fit into the bigger picture. When I looked at my list, it helped me remember what to say without feeling nervous about forgetting anything important. Professor Hill also explained that writing key points keeps your speech organized. When your points are clear, your audience will stay interested, he said. He was right. Writing key points helped me focus on explaining one idea at a time, just like when I explain a case step by step to my friends. This method felt so much easier than memorizing long paragraphs. Before, I would panic if I forgot one word because it made me lose my place. But now, with my points written down, I felt confident because I could always look back at my list if I got stuck. Preparing like a detective gave me a powerful tool for public speaking. It wasn't about saying everything perfectly. It was about sharing my ideas clearly and confidently. 2. Speak in short sentences. Professor Hill looked at me and said, Nancy, one of the best ways to speak confidently in public is to use simple and short sentences. Long sentences can confuse both you and your audience. Instead, focus on being clear and easy to understand. At first, I didn't quite understand what he meant, so he gave me an example. Imagine you want to say this. The detective's investigation into the mysterious disappearance of the valuable antique, which had puzzled everyone in the town, was finally successful due to his extraordinary skills. He paused and then said, "Now listen to this version. The detective solved the case. The antique was missing. Everyone was puzzled, but his skills helped him succeed." I noticed how the second version was much easier to follow. The shorter sentences made the message clear and didn't leave me feeling overwhelmed. Then Professor Hill gave me some advice to help me practice. 1. Think before you speak. He told me to pause for a moment and think about what I wanted to say. This helped me choose simpler words and form shorter sentences. 2. Break big ideas into smaller ones. If I had something complicated to explain, I divided it into 2 or 3 smaller sentences. For example, instead of saying, "Public speaking is important because it helps you communicate better, build confidence, and connect with others," I practice saying, "Public speaking is important. It helps you talk better. It builds your confidence. It helps you connect with people." 3. Use everyday words. Professor Hill reminded me not to try too hard to sound smart. Words like big, happy, or help were just as good as longer words like tremendous, joyful, or assist. So, I started practicing. Whenever I spoke in English, I focused on keeping my sentences short. For example, instead of saying, "I think the mystery will be solved soon because all the clues are now clear," I would say, "I think the mystery will be solved. The clues are clear." At first, it felt strange to talk this way, but I realized that people understood me better. They didn't have to think too hard about what I was saying, and I didn't have to worry about getting the sentence exactly right. When I tried this technique during my speech at the community event, it worked like magic. People were smiling and nodding as I spoke. I could see that they were following my words easily. Now, whenever I speak in public, I remember Professor Hill's advice. Keep it simple. Use short sentences. This little trick has made a big difference in how I speak English in front of others, and I know it can help you too. Would you like to try speaking in short sentences? Start by picking a big idea and breaking it down into smaller, simple parts. You'll see how much easier it becomes. 3. Practice in front of a mirror. Professor Hill gave me an important tip. Practice speaking in front of a mirror. At first, I thought it sounded a bit strange. Why would I talk to myself in the mirror? But he explained, "Nancy, the mirror is your best practice partner. It will show you how you look, how you move, and how you speak." I decided to give it a try. I stood in front of the mirror and started reading my speech. At first, it felt awkward because I was not used to watching myself while speaking. But slowly, I noticed something amazing. Correcting my expressions. When I looked at my reflection, I saw how my face looked when I spoke. Sometimes my expressions didn't match the words I was saying. For example, if I was talking about something exciting, my face looked too serious. So, I practiced smiling and using expressions that match my speech. Improving my posture. I also noticed how I stood. At first, I was slouching, which made me look nervous. So, I straightened my back, stood tall, and practiced looking confident, even if I didn't feel that way yet. Focusing on clarity. As I spoke, I paid attention to my lips and mouth movements. Sometimes I mumbled or spoke too quickly. Watching myself helped me slow down and pronounce each word clearly. Overcoming nervousness. The best part of practicing in front of the mirror was that it made me feel less nervous. The more I saw myself speaking, the more comfortable I felt. It was like talking to a friendly version of me. After a few days of practice, I noticed a big difference. I started feeling more confident about how I looked and sounded when I spoke. The mirror helped me see myself as the audience would see me, and it became a powerful tool in improving my public speaking skills. So, if you're learning to speak in public, stand in front of a mirror, look at yourself, and practice. It may feel strange at first, but it's a fun and easy way to improve your confidence, expressions, and clarity. For record and review, Professor Hill told me something very helpful. Nancy, record yourself while speaking and then listen to it carefully. This will help you see what you can improve. At first, I thought it might feel strange to hear my own voice, but I decided to give it a try. One afternoon, I took my phone, opened the recording app, and started reading a short paragraph aloud. When I played it back, I noticed something interesting. Some words didn't sound as clear as I thought they did when I spoke them. For example, I realized I wasn't pronouncing the letter R properly in certain words. Professor Hill explained, when you listen to your recordings, you'll notice things like pronunciation, tone, and speed. You can then practice to fix those issues. So, I began recording myself every day. I would read a story, pretend to give a speech, or just talk about my day in English. Then I would listen closely to my recordings and make notes. Sometimes I was speaking too fast and people might not understand me. Other times my voice sounded too quiet. To improve, I practiced saying the tricky words slowly and clearly. I also worked on speaking at a steady pace, not too fast and not too slow. Listening to myself over and over again helped me feel more confident because I could hear my progress. Recording and reviewing became one of my favorite techniques because it was like having a teacher with me all the time. The best part? I could see how much better I was getting every single day. Professor Hill's advice taught me that even if you're nervous about speaking, you can always learn and improve by simply listening to yourself and trying again. It was a simple but powerful way to build my confidence in speaking English. 5. The power of pauses. Professor Hill was a very wise man, and one thing he taught me was how important pauses are when speaking in public. He told me, pauses are your best friend. At first, I didn't understand what he meant. Why would stopping while speaking be helpful? Wouldn't it make me sound nervous or unsure? But then, Professor Hill explained how pauses can actually make you sound more confident and help your audience understand you better. What is a pause? A pause is when you stop speaking for a short moment. It's like taking a little break in between sentences or important ideas. It's not about stopping for too long, just enough to catch your breath and give your audience time to think about what you've said. Imagine you're telling a story to your friends. If you speak too quickly and don't take any pauses, your friends might not understand the story or might get confused. But if you pause for a moment after saying something important, they have time to think about it and pay attention. How pauses help you emphasize important points. When you want to highlight something important, pauses can be a powerful tool. Let's say you're giving a speech about how we can help protect the environment. If you say something like, it's important to take care of our planet because it's the only home we have, a pause after the word planet helps the audience realize that the next part is very important. The pause gives them time to think about what you just said, and it makes the second part of your sentence even more powerful. It's like saying, this is really important, so listen closely. Pauses help you catch your breath. When you're speaking for a long time, it's easy to feel out of breath. You might start rushing your words, and that can make it harder for others to understand you. Pauses give you a chance to breathe and calm down. Taking a deep breath during a pause also helps you feel more relaxed, which makes you sound more confident. For example, when I first practiced my speech, I would get so nervous and forget to breathe. But after using pauses, I was able to speak slowly and clearly, and I didn't feel rushed. I could take a moment to breathe, think about my next sentence, and keep going. Pauses make you sound more confident. When you pause at the right moments, it shows your audience that you are in control of what you're saying. It's like when a detective in a mystery story takes a moment to think before solving the case. The pause builds a little bit of excitement and shows that you know exactly what you're talking about. For example, imagine you're explaining a problem you solved, and you say, "I was able to figure out the mystery after I noticed a strange clue." That pause after the word mystery makes your audience think, "Wow, this clue must be important." By practicing pauses, I found that I sounded more confident and clear. My words had more meaning, and I felt like the audience was paying more attention. Using pauses in everyday conversations. You don't have to wait until you're giving a speech to use pauses. They can help in everyday conversations too. If you're explaining something to your friends or teachers, use pauses to make your words clearer. You can also use pauses when you're reading aloud, so others can follow along with you. For example, when telling a friend about a book you're reading, you could say, "I just finished a chapter about a magical adventure, and now the hero has to face a big challenge." That pause after magical adventure will make your friend more interested and ready to hear about the challenge. Final thoughts. I used to think that speaking quickly meant I was doing well, but now I know that speaking slowly and using pauses makes me sound much more confident. Pauses help your audience understand you better, and they give you time to think. They help you breathe and stay calm, even when you're nervous. Most importantly, pauses help you emphasize what's truly important in what you're saying. So, next time you have to speak in front of people, whether it's for a class project or just chatting with friends, remember the power of pauses. Use them to take your time, sound more confident, and make your words even more powerful. 6. Engage with your audience. Professor Hill gave me some amazing advice that changed the way I thought about speaking in public. He said, "Imagine your audience as your friends. Smile and make eye contact." At first, I wasn't sure how this would help, but it made a huge difference. Let me explain how it worked for me. Imagine your audience as friends. When I first stood in front of a group of people to speak, I felt like I was talking to strangers, and that made me nervous. But Professor Hill suggested that I think of the audience as my friends. Friends don't judge you, right? They listen to you, support you, and want to hear what you have to say. So, the next time I spoke, I imagined the people in the crowd were my close friends who were excited to hear my story. When I did this, I felt more relaxed. Instead of feeling scared or nervous, I felt like I was just having a conversation with a group of friends. This simple change in thinking made me feel much more confident and comfortable. Smile while speaking. Another tip from Professor Hill was to smile while speaking. At first, I thought it might be hard to remember to smile while I was nervous, but I practiced it. When you smile, it helps you feel more positive, and it also makes you look more confident to your audience. It shows that you are happy to be there and ready to share your thoughts. Even when I was nervous, I made sure to smile. At first, it felt a little strange, but as I practiced more, it became easier. When I smiled, I noticed that the people in the audience smiled back. It was like we were all connected through that simple gesture. Smiling made the experience feel more friendly and less stressful. Making eye contact. The next thing Professor Hill taught me was the importance of eye contact. When you make eye contact, he said, It shows your audience that you are confident and that you care about what they think. At first, I was too shy to look people in the eye when I spoke. I would often look down at my notes or look around the room without focusing on anyone. But when I started to make eye contact with the people in the audience, I saw something amazing happen. They began to pay more attention to what I was saying. It felt like we were having a conversation, even though I was the one doing most of the talking. Eye contact helped me connect with my audience and made me feel less nervous. It also made me look more confident and in control of the situation. How it changed me. Over time, as I practiced smiling and making eye contact, I became more comfortable with public speaking. The more I engaged with my audience in this way, the more confident I felt. It felt like I wasn't just talking to a crowd, I was talking to my friends, and we were having a great time together. Smiling and making eye contact helped me build a connection with the people listening to me, and that made all the difference. Now, whenever I speak in front of people, I remember to smile and make eye contact. I still get a little nervous sometimes, but using these techniques helps me feel like I'm talking to friends instead of strangers. And that makes public speaking a lot less scary and a lot more fun. 7. Handling mistakes with grace. When Professor Hill taught me about handling mistakes, he said something that really stuck with me. Everyone makes mistakes. If you slip, laugh it off and continue. The audience will admire your confidence. At first, this sounded a bit strange to me. Why would people admire someone who made a mistake? But as I thought about it more, I realized that what he meant was that everyone, no matter how good they are, makes mistakes. It's how you react to them that really matters. What happens when you make a mistake? Imagine you're speaking in front of a group of people, and suddenly you forget a word or stumble over a sentence. It's normal to feel embarrassed, right? I used to feel like I wanted to disappear when that happened. I thought everyone would notice and judge me. But then I remembered what Professor Hill had said. He told me that mistakes are part of being human. Even the best speakers and actors make mistakes. The important thing is not to stop or panic, but to keep going with confidence. Laughing it off. One of the things Professor Hill encouraged me to do when I made a mistake was to laugh it off. At first, this sounded a little silly. Why would I laugh at a mistake? But then I realized that laughing helps to relax you and makes the audience feel more comfortable. It's like telling them, it's okay. I'm human too. When you laugh, it shows the audience that you don't take yourself too seriously, and that's something they will appreciate. For example, during one of my practice speeches, I accidentally said the wrong word, and I felt embarrassed for a moment. Instead of stopping, I smiled and said, "Oops, looks like I'm still working on my detective skills." The audience laughed along with me, and I felt much more relaxed. It was like the mistake didn't matter anymore. Continuing after a mistake. After laughing off the mistake, the next important thing is to keep going. Don't stop your speech or get too caught up in it. If you make a mistake, it's just a tiny part of your presentation, and the audience won't remember it if you keep going smoothly. Professor Hill said, keep going with your message. Even if you make a mistake, your main job is to get your message across. It's more important to finish strong and confidently than to worry about one small error. For example, I remember one time during my speech, I got nervous and accidentally skipped a part of my story. I paused for a second, took a deep breath, and continued on with the next part. I didn't make a big deal about the mistake, and the audience didn't even notice. They were too focused on what I was saying, not how I said it. This showed me that it's the confidence in your delivery that counts more than perfection. The audience will admire your confidence. Professor Hill also explained that the audience actually admires speakers who handle mistakes with confidence. Instead of feeling bad about making a mistake, if you stay calm, smile, and keep going, the audience sees you as someone who is strong and in control. They want to see that you are comfortable with who you are, even if you're not perfect. It's all about how you handle yourself. Confidence is more important than being flawless. When I realized this, I started to feel less nervous about making mistakes. I knew that even if I slipped up, I could handle it and keep going. The audience didn't expect me to be perfect, and neither did I. They just wanted to hear my message and see me speak with confidence. Final thoughts. So now, whenever I make a mistake, I remember what Professor Hill said. I laugh it off, stay calm, and keep going. Mistakes are just part of the process. What matters is how you deal with them. The more you practice handling mistakes gracefully, the more confident you'll feel when speaking in public. Remember, the audience is there to listen to you, and they admire your bravery when you handle mistakes with grace and confidence. Mistakes don't have to stop you. They can make you stronger and more confident as a speaker, putting the techniques into practice. After learning all of the helpful tips from Professor Hill, I was ready to try them out. I knew I had to face my fear and put everything I had learned into action. The perfect opportunity came when our town announced that it was holding its annual community event. This event was special because many people from all over town would gather to listen to speeches, watch performances, and have fun. I decided that this was the time to test what I had learned, so I signed up to give a speech. My topic would be something I loved and knew well: solving mysteries. I was excited because it was a subject I was passionate about, but at the same time, I felt nervous thinking about standing in front of so many people. The night before the event, I practiced my speech again and again. I made sure to use the techniques that Professor Hill had shared with me. I kept my sentences short and simple. I smiled in front of the mirror, making sure my voice was clear. I even practiced pausing in between key points, just like he suggested. I wanted to make sure I could speak with confidence, even if I was feeling a little nervous. When the day of the event arrived, I was both excited and scared. I was about to stand in front of the entire town and speak in English, and my heart was beating fast. I walked to the stage where I would give my speech, and I could feel my palms getting sweaty. But I remembered what Professor Hill said. Don't worry about being perfect. Just focus on getting your message across. Before I stepped onto the stage, I took a deep breath. I closed my eyes for a second and reminded myself of all the techniques I had learned. I thought about Professor Hill's words. Use short sentences, speak slowly, and smile. I felt a little more relaxed, but my hands still shook a little. It was okay to be nervous. It just meant that I cared about doing my best. As I stepped onto the stage, I smiled at the audience, which made me feel more at ease. The bright lights of the stage made it hard to see everyone, but I could hear the quiet murmur of the crowd. I began my speech with a deep breath and said, "Good afternoon, everyone. Today, I'm going to talk about something I love: solving mysteries." The moment I started speaking, I felt a bit more confident. I remembered to pause at important points in my speech, just like Professor Hill taught me. I smiled and looked around at the people in the crowd, imagining they were my friends, just like he suggested. It helped me feel like I was having a conversation rather than giving a big, scary speech. Even though I made a small mistake with a word, I didn't panic. I laughed it off and said, "Well, even detectives make mistakes sometimes." The audience laughed with me, and it felt good to know that they weren't judging me. They were just happy to hear my message. By the time I finished my speech, I felt proud of myself. I had done it. I used the techniques I had learned and faced my fear of speaking in public. I wasn't perfect, but I was confident and brave. I realized that the most important thing was sharing my passion for solving mysteries, and I did it with a smile. The big moment, the day of the event arrived. I was nervous, but I was also ready. As I stood backstage, I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. My palms were sweaty, and my legs felt a little wobbly. I had practiced so much, but now that I was standing in front of the audience, everything felt real. Finally, the moment came. The host called my name, and I walked onto the stage. The bright light shined in my eyes, and I couldn't see the audience clearly, but I could hear them. They were all waiting for me to speak. My heart beat even faster, but then I remembered Professor Hill's advice. Stay calm, smile, and take it one step at a time. I took a deep breath and smiled. It felt a little strange, but I knew that smiling would help me feel more confident. I looked out into the crowd and saw some friendly faces, including my best friend Lily, waving at me. That made me feel a little better. I also remembered to make eye contact with different people in the audience, just like Professor Hill had told me. This made me feel more connected to them, like I was having a conversation with each person instead of speaking to a big crowd. I started speaking slowly and clearly, using the short sentences I had practiced. My voice wasn't shaking as much as I thought it would, and the words seemed to come out a little easier. I focused on each point of my speech, and every time I paused for a moment, I could hear the audience listening carefully. The pauses were helping me feel more in control and gave my words more meaning. But then, as I was explaining something important about solving mysteries, I made a small mistake. I said a word wrong. I felt a little embarrassed, but then I remembered Professor Hill's advice again. Don't worry about mistakes. If you laugh it off, the audience will laugh with you. So I did something I didn't think I would do. I laughed. I said, oops. Looks like even detectives make mistakes sometimes. We can't be perfect all the time. To my surprise, the whole audience started laughing with me. I felt relieved, and it helped me relax. The people in the crowd weren't there to judge me. They just wanted to hear what I had to say, and my mistake made them feel like I was just like them, learning and growing. By the time I finished my speech, I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. The audience clapped and cheered. They were cheering for me, not because I was perfect, but because I had stood up there and shared my thoughts. It wasn't about being perfect. It was about being brave and speaking from the heart. When I stepped down from the stage, my friend Lily gave me a big high five. You did amazing, she said. I couldn't believe it. I had done it, what I learned. That day, something important clicked in my mind. I realized that public speaking isn't about being perfect. In fact, nobody speaks perfectly all the time. It's not about saying every word without mistakes or using the biggest, most difficult words. Public speaking is more about connecting with the people who are listening to you. When you speak in front of an audience, your main goal should be to share your ideas and make sure the people listening can understand and enjoy what you're saying. It's like having a conversation with your friends. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to make sure that your message is clear and that everyone feels comfortable listening to you. Professor Hill's techniques helped me understand this. He showed me that it's okay to make mistakes and that nobody expects you to be perfect. The most important thing is to be confident and try your best. By practicing with his tips, I started to feel more comfortable when speaking in public. I wasn't as scared of making mistakes anymore. I knew that if I made a small mistake, I could just keep going and not let it stop me. His techniques gave me the courage to speak clearly and with confidence, even if I felt nervous inside. When I used the tips he taught me, like pausing, making eye contact, and speaking in short, easy sentences, I felt better about what I was saying. I didn't have to be perfect. I just had to focus on sharing my thoughts and connecting with the people who were listening to me. What I learned that day was really special. It wasn't just about how to speak well. It was about believing in myself and knowing that I could speak with confidence, even if I was still learning. And that's something I'll never forget. Nancy Drew's tips for you. I want to share some tips that will help you speak English confidently in front of others, just like I did. These tips are simple, but very powerful. If you follow them, you'll feel more confident and ready to speak in public. 1. Prepare well. Know what you're going to say. Before you speak in public, it's very important to know exactly what you want to talk about. Think of it like studying for a test. The more you know about your topic, the easier it will be to speak about it. How to do it? Start by writing down the main points you want to talk about. You don't need to write everything out word for word, but just the main ideas. This way, you can stay on track and not forget anything important. Example: let's say you're giving a talk about your favorite animal. You can write down points like why I love this animal, what it eats, and where it lives. When you know your topic well, you'll feel more confident speaking about it. 2. Keep it simple. Use easy words and short sentences. It can be tempting to use big words when speaking in public, but this can make things harder for both you and your audience. It's better to use simple words and short sentences that everyone can understand. Why it's important? Simple words are easier to say and are less likely to get stuck in your throat. Also, short sentences help you stay focused on your message. How to do it? When you practice, use easy words that you know. Keep your sentences short, like, I love dogs because they are friendly, instead of, I adore dogs as they are very amicable and affectionate creatures. Remember, speaking simply makes your message clear and keeps your audience engaged. 3. Practice. In front of a mirror, with friends, or by recording yourself. The more you practice, the better you get. It's just like playing a sport or learning to ride a bike. The more you do it, the easier it becomes. How to practice? You can practice in front of a mirror. This will help you see how your body moves when you speak, and you can correct your posture. You can also practice with friends or family, and they can give you helpful advice. Another good idea is to record yourself. Listening to your voice will help you understand where you can improve. Example: practice saying your speech out loud 3 times every day. You'll feel less nervous each time you do it. 4. Pause. Take a breath and emphasize key points. When we speak, sometimes we rush through our words because we're nervous. But it's really important to take small pauses when speaking in public. This will give you time to breathe and also help your audience understand your message better. Why it's important: pauses give your audience a chance to think about what you just said. It also helps you relax and think about the next thing you want to say. How to do it? Whenever you finish a point, take a deep breath and pause for a second. For example, after saying, dogs are great pets, you can pause for a moment before continuing. They are loyal and always ready to play. 5. Engage. Smile, make eye contact, and connect with your audience. Public speaking is not just about talking. It's about connecting with the people who are listening to you. When you smile and make eye contact, it shows that you care about your audience and makes them feel more connected to you. Why it's important. When you smile, people feel happy and comfortable listening to you. Eye contact shows that you are confident and trustworthy. How to do it. Look at different people in the audience as you speak. Don't just stare at the floor or read from a paper. Smile while you talk, and make sure your face shows that you're enjoying what you're saying. Remember, your audience is there to listen and enjoy what you say, so connect with them. 6. Accept mistakes. They're part of the process. Learn and move on. No one is perfect, not even the best speakers in the world. It's normal to make mistakes while speaking. The key is to accept them and move on without feeling embarrassed. Why it's important. Making a mistake doesn't mean you're bad at speaking. It just means you're human. What matters is how you handle it. If you make a mistake, just smile, correct it, and keep going. How to do it. If you forget a word or say something wrong, don't stop. Simply say, "Oops, I meant to say," and continue. Your audience will appreciate how confident you are in moving forward. Remember, mistakes are part of learning. The more you speak, the fewer mistakes you'll make. Final thoughts. By following these tips, you'll feel more confident when speaking English in front of others. Always remember to prepare well, keep things simple, practice often, take pauses, engage with your audience, and accept mistakes. Speaking in public doesn't have to be scary. With practice and these tips, you'll be able to speak English confidently and share your ideas with the world. Overcoming nervousness and gaining confidence in public speaking. At first, I was really nervous about speaking in front of people. My hands would shake and my heart would race. I was so afraid of making mistakes that I wanted to hide. But after practicing the techniques I learned, I started to feel more confident. I learned that it's okay to make mistakes and that everyone gets nervous sometimes, even the best speakers. The important part is not to give up and to keep trying. Just like how I practiced speaking in front of a mirror and recorded myself to get better. You could do the same thing. When you practice a little every day, you'll notice that you get better and better at speaking clearly and confidently. It may seem hard at first, but remember, every time you practice, you're getting closer to your goal of becoming a better speaker. Don't worry if you don't feel perfect right away. Public speaking isn't about being perfect. It's about sharing your thoughts and ideas with others. And the more you speak, the easier it will get. So start practicing today, even if it's just reading a book aloud to your family or friends. The more you practice, the more confident you'll become. Remember, every step you take is a step forward, and with each step, you're getting better. Soon, you'll be able to stand in front of any group of people and speak without feeling scared. If I can do it, I know you can too. Keep practicing, and you'll reach your goal one day. Nancy Drew's journey shows that with the right techniques, anyone can become a confident speaker in English, no matter how nervous they are at first. If Nancy's story inspired you, it's time for you to start practicing too. Remember, confidence comes with every step forward. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like this video and share it with your friends who need a little boost in their English speaking journey. Leave a comment below and tell us what tips you'll try first, or share your own experiences. And of course, make sure to subscribe to English Tone and press the bell icon so you never miss out on more tips and inspiring stories to help you speak English with confidence. See you in the next video.